All right, and welcome back to the forecast card. This day could have been 0-7. In some cases, I really felt like it was about to. Pretty crazy day. It started at 0-4, and the other three games all looked amazing until they didn't. Ohio State, they were relatively competitive for a bit of it, but Iowa shot 55% from the field. They didn't miss like any free throws. They, yeah, I don't know what to say. Ohio State just didn't show up for this game. Um, pretty pathetic one, but I just had the wrong read on it. Iowa's a bit more of a wagon than I had anticipated, given they're still missing their best player. But Georgetown, I genuinely didn't think you could lose to DePaul three times. I don't think they're a good team, especially not on the road. But Georgetown, they looked like shit. They had this one run where they looked promising, like they maybe had figured it out, but then they just collapsed again and gave up like another 12-0 run. DePaul ends up winning this game by 4. Yeah, DePaul played pretty well. I guess they literally just owned Georgetown. So, yeah, just wrong read. I just thought Georgetown would be really pissed off about losing some twice. Yeah, not much else to say. Kansas State, they started to bring it sort of close in the second half, but they just got crushed in the first half, down 17. Yeah, got to give it to Baylor. They really showed up in this game. Their guard play is kind of scary. And that's honestly, if they can play like that every game, I think they have a chance to potentially, win out and maybe even beat a tough matchup against Iowa State tomorrow. I might end up betting that one. It's not on the card here, but if you're looking for a live dog, I think Baylor, they looked really good today. South Carolina State, I had no words, man. Coppin was winning at half. Like, this is like the best team in the conference against arguably one of the worst, and Coppin just could not miss. Gotta give him credit though; they shot really well. They equal on boards. They forced South Carolina State to turn the ball over 15 times and 9 blocks. Yeah, they played well. This Orduro guy is kind of the real deal. So good for him. That was like Petrocchi's play, and it kind of felt like it was going to be shit, but and it was. Merrimack, this game shouldn't have been as sweaty as it was. They were dominating this game. I would say pretty much the entire time. They were up, I think upwards of like 12 or 13 at some point in the second half. But this game ends up going to overtime where they win by 4. I think they were up 10 with like 3 minutes left and allow Tim Sacred Heart to come back. And the only reason they even came back was because when there was they had a 7-point lead, and Sacred Heart was doing the classic shoot a 3 foul, and they would shoot, make a 2 or a 3, come back, foul. Merrimack would miss the 1-and-1. Sacred Heart would go up, it would shoot, and then Merrimack would miss the 1-and-1 again. Like, they just kept missing the first free throw, and it just allowed them to walk back into this game. They got it covered in overtime. They finally made the free throws at the very end. Luckily, they fouled their only half-decent free throw shooter on that team. But yeah, really frustrating that almost lost. UC Santa Barbara, very similar, winning by like 14, like 5 minutes left. Let them come all the way back in. Thank God. Again, they made their fast break free throws with 7 seconds left, and that ended up being the cover. Not much to say. They looked like the better team. They couldn't hit their threes. They couldn't hit their free throws. But they dominated every other aspect of that game. So it is what it is. And Villanova, when they were trying, it was very clearly they were the better team than Seton Hall. But they kept going these stretches where they could not score a bucket. I think they were up 25 early on, and then they just got 4 points in the next 14 minutes, and then slowly Seton Hall would eventually make it 2. I don't really know. They just have a weird team. Their 2 superstars that I love only ended up playing 27 minutes this game. Especially Eric Dixon only playing 27 minutes really threw me off. I guess he wasn't really playing that well, but yeah, I thought he would be playing at least 35 like most of the other starters, but it is what it is. Ends up covering. Hopefully you guys got that line at -11. I think it had moved a little bit, so might be a push for a lot of you. But yeah, locks come to 15-6. Ends up being a really small losing day, thanks to Villanova coming through. I think I was down 0.2 units or something. Pretty much a nothing burger. A lot of bad picks today, if I'm being honest. I kind of liked the slate, but yeah, I just tried to pick some cheeky spots, and I kind of deserved the losing day today. So there's 8 games that I like for tomorrow. We'll see how tomorrow goes. These tournament games are really fucky. You kind of want to play dogs because they're always playing for berth, but we'll see. I had like a few dogs today. All right, heading on to game number 1, we have Duquesne. Not really sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Versus St. Bonaventure. I think St. Bonaventure, they had a really rough patch in the middle of their season, but they were really lead at the end and really lead at the beginning. I think they're just a way better team than Duke here, especially on the road. They won 4 of their last 5, ending on a high note, including a win over Duquesne. Duquesne lost their last 2. They've had to play some pretty tough games to end off the season against VCU and St. Louis. I would say those are some pretty tough teams to compete with. So I think St. Bonaventure is going to be a bit more rested, in theory, coming into this one. Playing against VCU is never a fun time. Kind of really forces you to really overwork your muscles, but they've had 4 days to rest, so I'm not really leaning on that angle too much. But the bigger reason I like this spot is just the matchup. Yes, Duquesne has been a better team to end the year than they were at the beginning, but Bonnies on the road are much better. They've been a way better team. They've had to play much tougher competition, and I think a tournament like this is where you kind of step up to play at that highest level, and I think they will. If you look at where St. Bonnie's, they like to score. They like to shoot a lot more mid-ranges than anyone. They shoot basically every shot pretty evenly, with taking a very few near basket shots. That's kind of the place where Duke defends the best. Bonaventure, they're an elite mid-range team, top 30 in college basketball, top 40 in the near basket shot. They're not a good three-point shooting team by any means, but I do think they're going to find some success from 3 here, just because Duke is just such a bad three-point defense. They're probably going to get to line a good chunk. Duke is a team that does foul a lot, ranked 315th in getting teams to the line. And St. Bonnie's is a pretty solid free throw shooting around 73%. If you look at the St. Bonnie's team, they're not really a team that heavily looks for offensive boards, but they're a team that does force a lot of turnovers. And this is a Duke team that does turn the ball over quite a lot, ranked 217th in points off turnovers to the other team. St. Bonnie's top 75 team in points off turnovers. Offensively, I think St. Bonaventure will find some success. But the bigger reason I like this is the defensive side. Now, Duke, they're not that great of a three-point shooting team. St. Bonaventure, a top 100 three-point defense. The one thing that St. Bonaventure doesn't defend well is in the paint, and that's a shot that Duke takes the fewest of. Only 32% of the shots come from in the paint. Duke is a team that heavily relies on second chance opportunities. They typically have a lot of opportunities in any game. It's a St. Bonaventure team that is pretty solid on their offensive glass. One of the better defensive glass teams in college in this conference. They also don't turn the ball over nearly as much as Duke, and they don't foul. So I think this might be a tougher matchup here for Duquesne if it is a high tempo game. I think Bonaventure is going to get a lot more free points. Duke's going to have to basically earn all the points. They're not going to have that many opportunities on the boards. They're not really going to get as many forced points off turnovers. They're not going to get free throws. And if Bonaventure can limit them to only taking near basket shots that they don't really shoot that great or don't typically like to take a lot of, I think they're going to have a problem here, especially if they start trying to huck up threes and mid-range shots against a decent perimeter defense like St. Bonaventure. So I'm just going to take them here on the money line, minus 125. I think we're getting St. Bonnie's in a really good price. I think this is a pretty fair price. Both these teams kind of finished off the year on a similar note, but I do think we're getting the team in better form with a much higher ceiling. So give me St. Bonaventure here, minus 125 on the money line. You can also take them on minus 1.5 on the spread as well. All right, that brings us to game number 2, Arkansas versus Ole Miss. Now, if both teams were fully healthy, I would think Arkansas is the way better team here. This is an Arkansas team that's still almost lost to South Carolina, a team that only basically wins games at home. I really don't think that they're nearly as good of a team, especially having lost their second best player. Flan has been out pretty much the entire year. Now Thyro's out, most likely not going to play this game. I think missing these 2 players, they just don't have enough depth off the bench to make up for the loss of shooting. This is a South Carolina team that really is not good. especially when they're not playing home. To only beat them by 4 points, and it was pretty much neck and neck. I think they looked like shit, only putting up 72 points against South Carolina and letting South Carolina score 68 on you. I think this is a spot where Ole Miss is a fully healthy team. They haven't necessarily been that good to end off the year, but I still think they're a better and deeper team than Arkansas is right now. They're coming to this game with much more rest. I'm assuming they expected to play Arkansas in this game, so they've been planning 4 extra days here to plan how to beat this Arkansas team. They're going to have tape of this Arkansas team without their 2 starters to kind of see how they play and how they dismantled South Carolina. I think they're going to be at a huge disadvantage here. If you look at this Ole Miss team, with a rest advantage, they're 5-3 against the spread. Arkansas with a rest disadvantage, are 1-6 against the spread. They had to play a pretty tough physical game against South Carolina, playing back-to-backs against an Ole Miss team that's going to be super rested. Over 4+ days off, Ole Miss is 4-2 against the spread. This is going to be Arkansas's first back-to-back of the year. I think this is just going to be a tough matchup. If you look at how these two teams like to score, you can't really take Arkansas's stats at face value because they are missing 2 of their starters. But Ole Miss, I think they're going to find a lot of success in forcing turnovers. Arkansas barely won the rebounding battle against South Carolina, so I don't think their rebounding is as good as it was with those 2 players. Again, I think Ole Miss is going to find some success. They shoot kind of everything. They force a lot of turnovers. Arkansas, they're also a team that really relies on forcing turnovers as well. Ole Miss doesn't turn the ball over. And Ole Miss is one of the better teams on the road compared to a lot of these other teams. If you compare these 2 teams, Arkansas gets worse on the road, but Mississippi, a top 10 team on neutral, top 25 when they play on the road. I think they're the better team against an Arkansas team that's playing back-to-back, missing 2 starters. Their bench is going to have to step up, but I don't think they have nearly as good of a bench that Ole Miss does. So, I think Ole Miss rolls here. I think this is where the Hogs end their run. All right, that brings us to game number 3, Davidson versus St. Louis. I think this Davidson team kind of sucks. Like, they were losing to this Richmond team, who is significantly worse than St. Louis. They looked really bad, and I just on the eye test, I don't think that they have the capacity to beat the St. Louis team. Really, the only thing that they have going for them is they're typically a team that doesn't vary very much, but they looked really inconsistent that game. And if they don't have consistency, then they have nothing. Davidson, a team due for a little bit of positive regression. Same with St. Louis. So both these teams are kind of playing at the level that's kind of expected of them. But I think this is a tough matchup on paper for Davidson. If you look at how St. Louis likes to score, they shoot a lot of threes and they shoot a lot of paint shots. That's basically it. They don't get forced turnovers. They don't get offensive boards. They just shoot threes and shoot in the paint. And that's where Davidson struggles the most. They're ranked 253rd in three-point defense, ranked 288th in near basket defense. If St. Louis is going to get the shots that they want to get, they don't really shoot a lot of mid-range, and that's the only thing that Davidson defends well. This is going to be a problem here for Davidson. If you look at the other side, Davidson's a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes. They're not a great three-point shooting team, but St. Louis does defend it pretty well. And they shoot a lot of near basket shots. It's probably the shot that they have the best quality of chances on. And St. Louis top 50 team in defending the paint. They also don't turn the ball over a lot. They also will limit your chance on the offensive glass. Yeah, I think St. Louis is just a significantly better team here with a much, much better matchup both on the offensive and defensive side. Davidson, a decent free throw shooting team, top 100. But St. Louis ranked 18th in college basketball in how many free throws they give to the other team. So Davidson's not going to get any free points off steals, not going to get points from turnovers. And the only shot that they like to take a lot of is where St. Louis typically defends the best. I think St. Louis is going to be absolutely able to roll them in this game. These two teams did already play once this year, whereas I think it was a 1-point win for St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1-point win, 57-56. That 56, I think, is going to happen again. I think Davidson really struggled to put up points in that game. But on the other side, St. Louis just shot terribly. St. Louis is a team that they just dropped 98 against Loyola Chicago, 90 against Duquesne St. These are defenses that I think are similar to Davidson's. St. Louis just had a bad game. And I think coming to this tournament with a huge rest advantage, they're going to light them up. With a rest advantage of 7-4 against the spread, Davidson about even with a rest disadvantage. But on the away court is really the only thing that problems me. St. Louis doesn't play nearly as well on the road. They're not really a team that has covered well this year. But the statistical matchup here, they have some post season experience on their team. They're relatively healthy. They have some injuries, but most of those are not, starters. They're all kind of secondary bench players. So I think if St. Louis can get off to a hot start here, they should be. I think they should be bigger favorites than -3. So give me St. Louis here, -3. All right, that brings us to game number 4, which is North Carolina versus Wake Forest. I honestly think this is still a North Carolina team that is super overrated. They just had what you would imagine is a really solid performance, where they just beat Notre Dame by 20 points. But Notre Dame had just played like 3 games. They were exhausted. And freaking Withers, a bench player basically for North Carolina, shot lights out from 3. I don't think that happens again against a really elite Wake Forest 3-point defense, ranked 20th in college basketball. And I think North Carolina's going to be playing with way too much confidence because of how easily they just dismantled a pretty shitty, not a bad Notre Dame team, but a Notre Dame team that was playing way over their pay grade. On paper, North Carolina, they're a team that likes to shoot a lot in the paint. Wake Forest is an elite near paint defense, ranked 30th in college basketball. I think they're going to get stuffed there. They're a team that relies on offensive boards. They probably will still get some here, but Wake Forest still top 70 in limiting second chance opportunities. They're an elite three-point defense. They don't turn the ball over too much. They don't foul too much. On the other side, Wake Forest, they shoot a ton of mid-range shots. It's a shot that historically North Carolina doesn't defend that well. Same with near basket shots. They should get to the line a decent amount, where they're a much better free throw shooting team than North Carolina. I think this is going to be a competitive game. One extra day rest for Wake Forest. I do think North Carolina is a team that should win this game. I think they have the more talent, and it seemed like they really kind of bonded. But they looked after that Duke game where they were supposed to show up big time. They didn't look great. This is a UNC team that is 1-7 against the spread with rest disadvantage. They're playing on a back-to-back. Wake Forest has been chilling. They're 3-3 with the rest advantage. 4-3 with 4 days off. UNC 0-2 against the spread with no rest. I think this is going to be a tough spot for them, especially after Wake Forest has already beat North Carolina by 1. Obviously, that game was at home, so it was a little bit different of an environment, but I think these two teams are familiar with each other. Yes, North Carolina is familiar with the court, but I don't think they had to really stress that high in that game. And I think Wake Forest is a way better defensive team, so I think Wake can keep this game close and not win it outright. So give me Wake Forest plus 5.5. All right, and now the kind of dirty game of the day. But man, this Colorado team, I've been watching all of their games in this run, and they are playing so much differently than they played in the regular season. Their team seems to really be gelling all of a sudden. I thought they would be extremely pissed off with each other, but I'm just going to ride them here. Plus 18 is way too many points. Obviously, Houston, the best defense in college basketball, one of the best offenses, but they play so slowly that if their shots aren't falling, I think Colorado has a really good chance here to find success, especially if they play with the amount of heart that they've been playing with. I might end up taking this first half, but just because I'm a little bit scared that Colorado might get tired because they have played a lot of games. But on paper, Houston, they're a team that likes to shoot a lot of mid-range shots, and they basically shoot everything. They're probably going to find some success from 3, but they are a little bit cold, haven't played in a while. 3s typically might be a bit harder to come by. But Colorado's still a pretty solid mid-range defense, really solid paint defense. This is a Houston team that gets a lot of offensive boards. I think Colorado has a decent chance defensively here to at least limit them to some degree. And on the other side, Houston, obviously one of the best defense in college basketball, a little bit scary. But I don't know. I think Colorado has a chance to get to the line a decent amount if they're playing with the amount of energy that they've been playing with. Might find a little bit of success shooting 3s against Houston 3-point defense. That's kind of their technical weakness. They're still an elite 3-point defense, but they're much better at defending the mid-range in the paint. So I don't know. I think Houston is more locked in on the big tournament this game. I think they are favorites to win this tournament for a reason, but I think they're going to fall short. I think this Colorado team, I'm not going to take their money line, obviously, but I'm afraid Houston's going to kind of play down to their competition in this game. Expect this to be a super easy game. Not much to say. This is more of a spot where Houston could easily win this game by 30, and I'll sound like an idiot, but I just like this Colorado team and how they've been looking in this tournament. Obviously, they just played 2 games. They might be really tired against a pretty smothering Houston team, but they've already kept it close against Houston once this year. Houston has not been blowing teams out. The last time they've beaten a team that would have covered this plus 18 number, I'd probably have to scroll for a while to find a game where they would have covered a plus 18. Keep scrolling. Yeah, against Utah at home. It's the last time they've covered this number. That was back in January 22nd. And then before that game, they had a 30-point win over Kansas State. They had a big win over BYU. Again, they were blowing teams out a lot more to start off the year, but now they've kind of just been coasting. They really don't lock in until like the first 10 minutes have passed. And I think Colorado comes off to a hot start again. I think Houston is a team that, again, I think they're more destined for the big dance, and I think this is going to be a game they just don't show up for. So, fuck it, give me Colorado plus 18. I'm gonna even sprinkle a very small amount on the money line because, fuck it. All right, and that brings us to our last 3 bets of the day. We have New Mexico State versus Kennesaw State under 136.5. You can find that line on FanDuel. I think both these teams, they play extremely slow. At least New Mexico State plays really slow. Kennesaw does play fast, but this is a really good New Mexico State defense that I think is going to force them to play out a lot more of their shot clock. Look at how Kennesaw likes to score. They like to shoot threes almost 50% of the time. That is a New Mexico State team that's ranked 7th in college basketball in defending the 3. They don't give up offensive boards. They don't turn the ball over. I think Kennesaw, if their shots aren't falling, they're not going to be able to do quick transition shots. They're going to have to try to build out plays because taking threes is not going to be a very strong approach for them to score in this game. New Mexico State, they play extremely slow. They're a solid defensive team. Offensively, they're kind of mid against the Kennesaw State defense that plays really well. They typically rely heavily on mid-range. They kind of shoot everything at around 30%. Kennesaw has a solid defense. New Mexico State is terrible offensively. They're not going to get offensive boards. They might get a few points off turnovers. Both these teams are probably going to get to the line a decent amount, which is my only concern with this under. But neither of them shoot the free throw that well. And I still think this game is not going to be necessarily that close. So give me under 136.5. Mississippi State versus Missouri over. I think both of these teams have extremely good offenses. They're both due for some positive regression, especially offensively. They both play at a crazy fast pace. I guess I shouldn't say a crazy fast pace. Mississippi State top 100, Missouri top 200, but their pace has really been increasing lately. Both these teams, Missouri top 3 offense, Mississippi State top 25 offense, and they kind of match up well. I think Missouri is going to shoot a lot of threes, shoot some near basket shots. Mississippi State cannot defend the 3. They're going to get to the line a ton. Mississippi State, they're going to dominate the offensive boards, probably find a lot of success there. They're going to get points off turnovers. They're going to find success also from 3. I just think these two teams are going to not going to play a lot of defense, and it's just going to be, I really love just Missouri overs lately. They just seem to be a team that is playing no defense and is shooting really well. So I love that over. And UTSA, they've been playing extremely well to end off the year. I have them winning this game outright, I'm being honest. I do think that there's a world where East Carolina is the way better team, but UTSA is due for a ton of regression. They're so good at forcing turnovers. They're one of the better 3-point shooting teams in college basketball, and Eastern Carolina cannot defend the 3. They're one of the worst 3-point defenses in all of college basketball, ranked 357. This is obviously a risky play because if the threes aren't falling, and they're not going to win this game, but I think UTSA keep its game close if their threes are falling, and this is I think a good matchup for them. So give me UTSA here to keep this game close. They lost their last 2 games in this matchup. I think they're going to be playing with a little bit of revenge in the dog spot. So give me UTSA. I think the line is saying something. In terms of leans, Ohio, they've burnt me too many times for me to bet them. But I do think they're the way better team than Toledo, especially to end off the year. It's kind of hard to trust them when they're not playing at home. But I think Toledo finished off the year was one of the worst teams in college basketball, so kind of tough to back them. Xavier, I think they're just a straight up better team. Marquette looks like shit to end the year off. Getting 2.5 points here with probably a better team. I might sprinkle the money line on this one. In Seattle, I'm not going to bet this just because I don't love betting this team in general. But I think they're the way better team than Abilene Christian, especially to end off the year. But they're not necessarily a great road team. So those are the 8 games that I've already bet for today. The one lock, as always, is St. Bonaventure. It's going to be an early game at 11:30. Try to get this in. I think the line's just as about to upload this. It's already moved to -2. So you probably won't get this on the money line at a great price. So try to bet it early. But yeah, kind of hot on the locks. 15-6 on the season. Haven't been the greatest days. It's been like 4-4, 4-4, 4-4, 3-4, 4-3 in the last like 4 days. Pretty much mediocre. But the locks have been coming through, which I know a lot of you is probably all you bet. So let's keep it rolling. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.